Okay, we made inroads with this very, very deep principle here. To recapture the whole message over here, I would like to go back a few lines so we see the full impact of what the Rebbe is saying. We'll start from the line that begins Mislabesh Atainuk Bichlal. It's about 10 lines from the top. We're going back a few lines. I'm sure nobody will object to that. Mislabesh Atainuk Bichlal. And what we have at this point introduced is that the Tainuk, the Etzem HaTainuk, must be disseminated in individual koichos, and yet it's impossible since that the Tainuk and the koichos are too distant and there's no proximity, no understanding one from the other. And therefore, in order to bring them closer, there has to be a mamutza, there has to be an intermediary that is able to accomplish this task. Okay, so now he says, what is the intermediary that can bring it together? Vehu, and that is koyach hachochma shebenefesh. The koyach hachochma that's in the nefesh. This koyach hachochma is able to bridge this gap and bring the etzem hatainuk into the koichas. And now he's going to describe how that is accomplished by chochma. Ukiyodua, as is known, shehachochma koilel kol hakoichas. Number one, the chochma, even though chochma we know is above all the koichas, but actually chochma is koilel kol hakoichas. It actually includes all the koichas. Meaning to say that despite the fact that it is above the koichas, but it is not above the koichas in a manner where it cannot really relate to koichas. It actually includes all the koichas. And it is possible to appreciate from the chochma perspective every koich. Shaharoi, since that Kol ha-koiches kulim tchilo b'meich sheberoish bichlal. All the koiches are first contained, included in the moyach sheberoish, in the brain in general, on the koyach ha-chochma biprat, and the koyach ha-chochma in specific. Within the koiches, the various qualities in the brain, the koyach ha-chochma specifically includes all the koiches. Now, what does this mean? It includes all the koiches. It simply means that it, as I said before, it can relate and appreciate the various koiches. We gave us a very clear demonstration of the principle that we're discussing, that oineg cannot relate to koiches, and therefore we have to have a bridge. So we mentioned a very simple thing. Koiches means active pursuit. At the level of koiches, nothing can be accomplished instantaneously. In the level of koiches, everything is a developmental process. It is cumulative realized. Sorry. here. As for instance, on the level of koiches, if you want to get from one place, from point A to point B, there is X number of steps that you have to make in order to move from this place to this place. This is on the simplest level, and of course everybody understands that this applies to anything that one has to accomplish. You want to drink a cup of water. You don't drink a cup of water. You sip a cup of water. This is the way it is in koiches. In the koiches makifin, in rotzen and noineg, there this process doesn't exist. We mentioned when the Baal Shem Tov said, "Mokim sheretzoyne shel odom shomhu," in the place where the person's will is, he is automatically there. Doesn't have to get there. He is where he wants to be. And this is true in rotzen, this is true in noineg. And therefore, there is no way to translate rotzen into koiches. We can say that occasionally we see that some people have that nature bichlal, and sometimes even by us, sometimes we are impatient. We cannot accomplish something in a proper way. You want to get across, jump across. The reason for that is because we haven't processed it as we call it in chokhmah. So we are just going through directly from the rotzen and noineg, and that creates havoc. That's not the way to accomplish anything in koiches, in a practical level. On the other hand, chokhmah, kol ha-koiches kulim tchilu b'meich shabrosh b'chokhmah. All the koiches. Chokhmah can in fact relate to a procedural accomplishment. For example, and this is the classic example, that every seichel, even a seichel, is first conceptualized, is first recognized in Chokhmah. And in Chokhmah you have, so to speak, the central point of it, the spark. And yet, even though you have the spark, Chokhmah allows and relates and helps Bina to decipher what's in the spark. And take it apart and draw from it. So that Chokhmah in fact can relate to koiches, even though in essence it is above it. It sees things from a higher perspective, as we shall discuss now. Okay, so this is the one side of a mutzah. The mutzah means a what? That it has to have, it's a bridge. The mutzah has to be able to relate to the lower level, like the koiches. And this we already said that Chokhmah relates to koiches. And then the other side, v'yodua gamkein, it is also known shekoyach hachokhmah, that this koyach of chokhmah, shehu reishis hakoyches hagluyim, which is the reishis, which is the very beginning of the koyches gluyim. Koyches gluyim, this is in contrast to koyches makifim. Essentially, it means functioning koiches. And as we have defined now, anything that requires time and space, anything requires procedure to require, this is called koiches hagluyim. Koiches hagluyim. Chokhmah is basically in the category of koiches hagluyim. But within this category, it has a unique place. And that is, it is Reishis HaKochas HaGluim. It is the very beginning, the tip of the Kochas HaGluim. And what this Indian for Reishis Kochas HaGluim we already discussed, that the significance of it being Reishis is that at its pinnacle, at its top, it does not relate. It does not get things by process, by procedure. It itself does not get things by procedure. It gets in the Kudah. That's what Beis is the beginning.
It does not get things by what?
By process.
By process.
As it's described that when one is laboring to break through and to get to a certain to be able to relate to a certain seichel, to a certain concept. The labor consists, whatever it is, to remove the obstacles and so forth. But ultimately, the chokhmah, which means the first realization of the concept, which is the chokhmah, comes to him almost automatically. Like he says, it's called a spark, a borag hamavrik. It comes from the source in the form of a spark. In other words, it is not something that he recognizes how he developed, how you got it. He delved deeply into it so that it breaks through. The spark breaks through the obstacles, that which conceals it. The Borag HaMavrik is a very powerful allusion to Din HaChochmah. We have fire and we have a spark. Fire burns and consumes material, whatever it is, wood, fuel, whatever it is. And it is on an ongoing basis. A spark, where is a spark? How is a spark obtained? A spark is you hit a stone and a spark comes out. The stone is not fire. The stone doesn't get consumed by emitting this fire, this spark. Which means there is no process which you explain. Where is this spark coming from? You can't correlate it. It's coming from a source that is not fire.
It's not what?
Not fire. Some kind of an essential presence. And by hitting it, you get a spark. This is the concept of Chochmah is Reishis HaKochas HaGluim. You get Chochmah, you have no idea where you got it from. Because the source from where you got it from is not Chochmah. It's completely above Chochmah. Like we said before, from the perspective, from the level of Rotzen, which is just a notch above Chochmah, but it's Koyach Makif, it's a different category. Rotzen, Hashem says, where you want to be, that's where you are. Chochmah doesn't have that quality, where you want to be, you are. On the other hand, you are conceptualizing the principle where you want to be, where you should be. But the minute you think of it in terms of Chokhmah, you don't think of it only in terms of where you should be, but where you have to get to. That principle of where you have to get to is not part of Rotzen. In Rotzen, that aspect doesn't exist. In Rotzen, the entire reality is at the constant presence.
The entire reality
Is in constant presence.
conscious presence.
Chokhmah Chokhmah recognizes, yes, it recognizes that there is entire reality, but there is also the procedural way of getting to it, getting to a specific aspect of it. This is what Reishis HaKoyach HaGluim. Reishis HaKoyach HaGluim, as we already explained last week, we're learning this line over for a whole week. Reishis HaKoyach HaGluim means that there is not a process that brought it out. Like I say, when you hit a stone and you get a spark. The stone did not respond to your request, give me a spark. So Reishis HaKoyach HaGluim means that it somehow related to that which is not Chokhmah, and it got this spark. Normally in Koiches, in Bina, one step leads to the other, one step leads to the other. And the same thing is in every other function in Koyach. It develops step by step. One leads to the next, one leads to the next. This is the way it's in Koyach HaGluim. Chokhmah has this very unique position, where it is one of the Koyach HaGluim, but it is the tip, which means what initiates it is not the Koyach, is not the Dover Gold. It's initiated from something which is above Koyach HaGluim.
Yeah, it's a quick question. I don't want to throw off your progression, but first off we say Kol HaKoyach is cooling Tefillah b'Koyach HaChachma, and then Gamkein, an additional point, Reishis HaKoyach HaGluim. The Reishis HaKoyach HaGluim is really that's kind of the emphasis here. That's what distinguishes and puts Chacham above everything else, and it takes off from that is that it's Kol HaKoyach, and not. I mean, it seems like
No. That's why I went back to it. The Beis is putting it he's describing the two parts of a mamutza. A mamutza has to have two parts. That it has to relate to the mushpa, what it's trying to accomplish, and it has to relate to that from where it's coming. First, he explains that it relates to Koyach HaGluim. Then he goes and says, okay, now go to the other side.
okay.
The recipient, the koiches. So you do a gankin shekoyach hachochma shu reishis hakoyach HaGluim. This reishis hakoyach HaGluim, as much as we discussed it, it's incumbent upon us to think into it and to understand the principle behind it. So therefore, harehi keli legilui ho'eres ho'atzmim shebenefesh. Therefore, the chokhmah is a keli. The term keli applies to koyach gluyim. Anything above koyach gluyim doesn't have the whole principle of keli. Because the term keli implies right there that there is a circumscription. There's a beginning and middle and an end. In Koyches Makifin, there is no such element. Chokhmah does have it. It has a beginning. just like a spark. Here's a stone, it's not sparkling. You hit it and a spark comes out. So therefore Chochmah is a keli. But what is a keli to? It's a keli legilui ha'oires ha'atzmim shebenefesh. To the gilui of oires atzmim shebenefesh. Oires atzmim is a very unique, the deepest principle we can possibly identify. I mentioned before, atzmi is something which is completely beyond our grasp. Oires atzmiyim means Oires atzmiyim is above of the makifim. Atzmiyim is something which is related directly to the yetz. If we should use the analogy we used till now, a stone from which if you hit it, a spark comes out. So oires atzmim is the hardness of the stone, which is just the reality of the stone itself. And then when you hit it, a spark comes out. Chochmah is a keli for the gilui of oires atzmim, not the oires atzmim themselves. Oires atzmim cannot be obtained, it cannot be contained in any keli. Oires atzmiyim remain with the etz. They don't exist outside of the etz. In all our mishalim, we have demonstrated the principle. We go back to something that we were discussing for a long time. A guest and a host and a guest. So we all understood that when one invites the guest to be his guest for dinner, there are many things taking place over there. There's the home that he takes him into, there's the place, the comfortable place he gives him, there's the food that he serves him, and then above all, the real thing that he invites him for is for his presence. This, everything can be expressed. The presence cannot be expressed. You cannot, there's no substitute, there's no way to capture that presence and say, you can go and I have your presence. If he goes, he doesn't have it. To relate to this Indian, matter of fact, we pointed out that this is one of the sensitivities, human sensitivity, that we can be sensitive to something that we have no way of really fully explaining what it is. What is in this relationship, in this host presence? I invited you for dinner. Here's the dinner. What are you missing? What is the content of this presence itself? And yet we have we sense it because we have chokhmah, because we are human beings. We sense something beyond developmental aspect of our experience. This is called Atzmi. There are many different levels of Atzmi, but in this context, this is called Atzmi. Atzmi means the person himself, the element itself. From this Atzmi stays with the Atzmi. He cannot bestow it, he cannot impart it to you. It's there when he is there. He leaves, it's not there. To relate to this Eretz Atzmi, you have to have the beetle of Chochmah. These Eretz Atzmi are manifest, and they are nisgala in the form of Eretz Makif. And this is what he says. Gilui ha'eres ha'atzmi shebenefesh. Gilui ha'eres ha'atzmi, this comes in the form of eres makifim. She'akoiches sheheim b'chines makifim shebenefesh. The koiches which are the bechina of makifim. What is bechina makifim? We explained many times. I said the human being has an atzmi quality. The reason human being has an atzmi quality, after all, he is just a little menschler. He has an atzmi quality because the Eibishter had given him that status in the world. There's no other creature in the world that you could say it is there for its own sake. Just to be. This is the human being. Not only that, and he is there for his own being. The whole world was created for the human being. Now, in what way is this human being who is an Atzmi, who is a real presence, in what way is he present in the world? He is into himself.
Into himself? In what way?
He is into himself.
He's into himself.
In what way is he present in the world?
Into himself because he doesn't need anything?
Huh?
Because he doesn't. What do you mean he's into himself? Because he doesn't need anything? Because he's like self.
What is the meaning that he is in the world? If he is an Atzmi, he has a truth of his own. What does it mean he is in the world?
This into himself is he's dwelling
He is
with his
true to
own
himself.
truth.
Huh?
Oh,
Is it
that's
true?
he's dwelling with his own truth. That's into himself.
As we said before, we said many times, that once when a person is a graces, he's hardly alive. He has no influence in the world whatsoever. And yet he is a true human being. A full-fledged human being. So in other words, his presence in the world is totally independent of the influence that he has on the world. In what way is he in the world? Now for this, we have this classic statement of the Gemara that Odom Shein Beis, he is in the world, in the sense that he has his what's called Chelke B'Oila. He has his place in the world. He has his home where he establishes his presence in the world. What is this home? What is this establishing his presence? So here we have these two aspects. We have the etzem of the human being. How is this etzem manifest itself in the world? It manifests itself in the world that in the form that he actually spreads and declares his presence in a certain area in the world. This is his home. This provides the makif. In other words, the makif, when you say that which his presence encompasses. And what does this encompassing mean? That therefore within this makif, he can express all kinds of human qualities. Tables, chairs, sforim, everything that expresses what a human being is in a practical way. This is within this makif. This makif is rooted, this is the sense of it, is rooted in the fact that he is an atzmi.
That's the second
Can you
aspect.
repeat that last sentence? Could you repeat the last sentence?
One more time.
Noise, you know.
This makif is rooted in the fact that he is an atzmi. We explained many times that the whole principle of property ownership. How does a human being own property? If you hold this watch, okay, I own it because it's my hand. How do you own a piece of property? And we explained many, many times that we have to clearly identify ownership not as a convention and not as the lion's turf. And he stands on guard, doesn't let anybody in. True ownership. This becomes his. This piece of water belongs to him. On a functional level, it is his. How does it happen? It happens in the form that his truth, his atzmius, is now expressed in this piece of piece of property. Like we said, in your home, every corner of the home is yours. Not by virtue of the fact that you're using it. Not the makif element, not because you're using it, but because you are personally there. Do we understand this principle? You are personally there. We demonstrated this in different ways. And the most simple, most obvious thing is really such a mind-boggling concept. That if you have a home, and then you expand the home, you take one wall off and move it 10 feet out. Do you now have to expand yourself to occupy this additional 10 feet? Is there a process by which you become present in the other additional 10 feet? There is no process, automatic. Just as there was not a process how you became present in the first 10 feet, there's no process how you become present in the other 10 feet. Because the etzem doesn't spread. He is there. In what way? You understand this thing? In what way is this etzem misgala manifests itself? In the form of makif. It gives this home a context. Everything that's going to take place in this home has something to do with this human being, has some human quality to it. You're not going to bring into this home a horse. Unfortunately, some people bring dogs in, but you don't bring into this home things that don't belong to in human environment. It creates a makif, a human makif.
How is at one particular point of the etzem only being into itself brought to bear in the makif? I mean, I understand the idea that the ownership and the context of the houses result from him being an essential presence. But the essential presence seems to only be interested in itself. But the makif which it provides seems to allow for, it doesn't necessarily, to me, it doesn't like just points directly back at the person. It seems like it's allowing for just something else besides him.
This is what we explained originally. What gives a person its etzem presence? How is it an etzem? He has to eat, he has to sleep, he has to do exercise, he has to maintain his presence. How is he an etzem? He's an etzem by the fact that the Rebbe should declare him an etzem. And then you are here for a godly purpose. Your purpose over here, your presence over here has an essential truth. This atzmiyus manifests itself by makif. That the area that he occupies is declared as his and acquires his qualities. This is the makif. Makif is that which creates a context. This is the human presence. The human presence. Then from the etzem comes this human presence in this home. I explained many times over these couple of weeks. We're learning these two lines. Makif is the gilui of the etzem. But when only if the etzem chooses to be in this area. If it doesn't want to be there, then it's not there. But his atzmis, he could be in the area, and then he's automatically in whatever area he declares. That's called the makif. Now, there's a tremendous difference between the etzem and the makif. The etzem is immeasurable. The makif is measurable. As you said, there's a 10-foot house, a 20-foot house, 25-foot house. It's all measurable. This makif, anything that's measurable, if it is 10 feet consists of 10 individual feet. If you want to get from one end of the house to the other end of the house, you have to make 10 steps. This concept of making 10 steps does not exist in the etzem. Does not exist in the rotzim. Where does it exist? In the chokhmah. The chokhmah can relate to this idea. Yet, this etzem occupies 10 feet. And therefore it is possible then to translate it in terms of the koyach ha'alicha.
Without makif per se, it could occupy infinite amount of space.
Yes and no. Conceptually, you would say yes, of course it can. But this we demonstrated and pointed out also a very obvious thing and a very, very meaningful point. You have a home. The bigger person you are, and of course the more money you have, but principally the home approximates a person. A person who has got a bigger spread, who has a bigger ego, he has a bigger house. I don't know of a person who would feel comfortable as a personal dwelling to live in the Empire State Building. You'd go crazy. You can't relate to that. Even a melech is the whole country. A melech also has a palace that has outer walls. To live in a home, that's your home, which is beyond your concept of a home, is not living. It's not living in a home. It does not provide the sense of the market, of your presence.
So in other words, what you're saying is that the market, although it's directly linked to the etzem because it's it's allowed, it's a spreading of the etzem, but really it's subservient to the pnimi.
No.
Didn't you just say that?
It's not subservient to the pnimi. It is the etzem, and to the extent that the etzem, the reason that there is a limit to the market is because the etzem has a limit, which is only a human being. His oil has limit. That's why you say oil ain't soy. What's oil ain't soy?
Oh, yes, but by the way, что так и есть,
Oil ain't soy because the etzem is ain't soy, therefore the oil is ain't soy. There's no limit.
But it turned out that a human being has this immeasurable quality, yet isn't just kind of saying his etzem somehow has a limit.
Yeah, a human being, his etzem has a limit. So even though he's an etzem, but even though Cain and Hevel, they could not share the world between them, but they are meant to share the world. Ultimately, the Rebbe has shown that the world is big enough for 5 billion people and counting. I don't know, 7 billion today, right? Something like that. And nobody feels infringed. I don't feel infringed by your presence.
You're special.
It doesn't feel infringed upon by his presence.
Okay, so now we can finish this line. Those koiches that in the nefesh are bechinas makifim. In other words, the nefesh essentially is atzma. But there is an element in the nefesh that it can actually be present, give off its present, and that's bechinas makif. When the nefesh provides a makif, a context. So that those koiches which are makifim in the nefesh boyim bekoyach chochma bechinas pnimi. These koiches come in koyach chochma. Chochma is a keli for these makifim, but in chochma it becomes pnimi. In chochma it becomes pnimi. What does it mean? Chochma becomes pnimi. That's what we pointed out. Your home. From the point of view of the nefesh, of the atzmi, there is no measurement. It's not a 10-foot, 20-foot home. It's one entity, a home. Chochma recognizes, no, that's 20 feet in here. It recognizes the measure of this home. The atzmi does not recognize the measure. recognizes He's everywhere. This is it. This is my entity. The Makif does not recognize it either. Mitzad the Ratzon HaNefesh, He's automatically everywhere. The Chochmah has this unique quality. It relates to the Makif, it relates to the Etzem. But it has a pnimi quality. It says, oh, this is a huge home, this is 20 feet. And the Chochmah says, it's suitable, just right. In Rotzen, and there's no sense, it's suitable, that's right. This is the home. Chochmah, he has this concept, it's just right. There's an interesting halacha. Listen to this halacha. A person makes a vow, and he does not specify exactly how much he's promised. Doesn't specify. So then the Gizber, the Gabbai comes and starts collecting from him. And he's giving, and says, okay, I did not mean beyond this. What I mean he didn't mean beyond this? He didn't specify. He didn't specify, but in his open-mindedness and in his sense of giving, he had a sense of what it means to give. Like we said yesterday, if you give without an intent of giving, then it's not a gift. There's an intent in give. And he has a sense of what it means to give.
You also said it's limited to 20%.
That's what the Gemara says, 20%. That's the normal. Sometimes, if it makes sense, it could be beyond. But generally speaking, 20%. That's the expense, the expended. But the point is this. This halacha says that you can take from him until he says, Lo yozel iskavanti. Lo yozel iskavanti. This is, I didn't mean beyond. I didn't mean you didn't say how much you mean. Inherent in the Chochmah was a sense of what you intend to give. Now, in Rotzen and Noineg, there isn't that limit. There he doesn't know. That's why he has to come into Chochmah. Chochmah can provide that judgment. This is a suitable gift. This is not suitable. That means that Chochmah takes the essential truth of the Nefesh, the Makoches Makifim, and gives it a pnimi definition. Do you see the significance of this? He is giving all that he has. All that he has, 20%.
And that's not an activity of Bina creating.
No, this is. He didn't have a Bina, he didn't specify what.
So within that already is.
He didn't specify. Then you take until Sheyomer Shaloi Lozer Niskavant. Allah.
Showing that Chochmah has this
perception.
That original limit came from the market. What it actually.
That original even came from the Makif as it manifests itself in a Pnim, in Chochmah. Makif Tadatzim would not have it. But when it comes into Chochmah appreciates, there is a sense. Chochmah appreciates that if you give a person the Empire State Building as his home, he's not going to appreciate it. He's not going to experience it. Without the Rotzen, you don't know what's the difference. Take it, take whatever, take it. Chochmah is where it comes into Pnimi. So he judges how he would actually practically relate to it.
Makif itself is not a mamutza.
Makif itself is not an
But it's already a stepping away from
the etzem.
Yeah.
Hello, Paltiel?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I'm listening.
Chokhmah does this, but on the other hand, Chokhmah is only a Barak HaMavrik. How does a Barak HaMavrik contain a sense of measure? It's an instantaneous thing. There's no process there. We said, well, maybe is there a process in Chokhmah? Is there a procedure there? There's no procedure. Or is there?
Well, if we have to think into this in Yoni. We can't just ask questions. The Barak HaMavrik, yes, it's a Barak HaMavrik, but how long does it take?
How long does a Maverick take?
Yeah.
A second.
It takes a second. How much can you fit into a second?
Okay. Does Chokhmah understand the limit that it's setting?
Chokhmah understands. Chokhmah senses it. Chokhmah reflects what it means to be, for a human being to be in the world. This is in the form of Barak HaMavrik. Like the stone has fire, but it's not fire. Then comes a spark. It brings the fire out. And it says, the fire to be out, this is what it takes. This is where it fits. So Chokhmah takes the atzmius of the nefesh, which manifests in the form of makif, and brings it into pnim. Understand? I think it's quite clear. A makif does not have a measurement of 10 feet.
Even though we said it is measured.
No, that's in Chokhmah already. But for the makif itself, there's no 10 feet. Like say, it's my home. Is it 10 feet? No, this is all one entity.
We said the guy cannot go live in this Empire State Building, showing him.
That's the Chokhmah. Why don't you listen? The Chokhmah gives and recognizes that measure, that limit. The makif in the Chokhmah, the makif comes in Pnimi. So Chokhmah recognizes there's a limit. But mitzad the Ratzon Nefesh doesn't know the difference.
Chokhmah recognizes that the market have it, this definition?
Makif doesn't have a definition, but it has. I said there is a principle of what. Okay, that's not going further. That's it.
So what Chokhmah does for Edson, the market can't do for Edson, right?
Right. Okay, so this is what we have now concluded here. Sha'akoiche sheheim b'chinas ma'akifim shebenefesh boim. The koich ha'chochma b'chinas pnimi. Koich ha'chochma, they come in a pnimi manner. It's the same house, the same encompassing, but there is a number of feet. Once there's a number of feet, then there is then that can be translated in terms of how long will it take me from here to here. Mitzad Rotzen, there is. I'm everywhere all the time.
Are there other stages in the Barak HaMavrik Perhaps initially it's not considered pnimi, or that's incorrect.
Initially, it's a Nazi.
Okay,
Stone.
so in the Barak HaMavrik,
No, the Barak HaMavik is a Gili of the Atzim.
so by definition, the Barak HaMavik is pnimi. There's no different levels in the Barak HaMavik. Okay.
This is the speed.
Okay.
It's Chochmah. I think that the illustration of the Empire State Building being a personal home, if we would utilize and would actually reflect on it, we'll be able to relate to an inner voice of Chochmah, to a certain sense of of the inner wisdom that's inherent in the human being. An idiot, I'm going to give you the Empire State Building for example. Sure, give it to me. I have two shoes. One shoe will be in this room, one shoe will be in this room. Two shoes next to each other, they take up too much room. A human being who appreciates what it means to have a home doesn't want to have in the home in the Empire State Building. Wants to be able to relate to this home, even on a smaller scale. On a smaller scale, you have a dining room. Imagine your dining room is the size of the 770 downstairs 770, and the table stands in the middle. You won't feel comfortable there. Why not? Sit around, you can get out, you can go around, you can go wherever you want. When you're eating by the table, you want to have a context. You don't want to sit in the middle of the field, you want to see at home. If the walls are 50 feet away, you don't feel it. You don't sense it. This is all in Chochmah. This is the Etzem HaNefesh, but in the way it manifests itself in Chochmah. What's the matter?
I'm just saying that because you haven't seen the size of my apartment.
But the person who's given the Empire State Building could decide to make a small territory inside.
That's
and
right.
Make it his home, like an apartment.
If he's smart, what he'll sell it all off and he'll take a little apartment for himself.
Isn't the desire to own everything inherent in the human being as a Chelek Kami Mahal? Because like you live.
You're way beyond me.
I'm just saying like Cain and Hevel. So I'll take all the real estate. So I'll take all the metaltal. You know, they wanted to have. They fought over the whole world.
All right. Okay. So I think we did justice, maybe here through these two lines. The way at best I can remember, it's a whole week.
Yeah, there's a week.
וכמי שכוסו במוקים אחר. ועל כן, and therefore, התיינוג מסלבש בכוח החוכמה. The tainug actually can be mislabish, can be imbued in the koyach HaChochma. On the one hand, the tainug is mislabish in koyach HaChochma, ve'al yoda bo be'hakoyach primus, and through the chochma, the tainug comes into the koyach protim. And this is that the koyach protim have the element of oineg, which is essentially the essence of every koyach, as we said in the Rishon. And this will be it for this morning. We'll reconvene with him tomorrow. Seid gesund, have a good day, everybody.
It's tracking, right?
Noch ist gut.
Where's Akiva today?
He's probably in the country.
Ah.